I am so excited. I have Matt Ehrlichman, CEO and co-founder of Porch. Wait till you get a handle on what Porch has done and what they're doing. I love the way the company's evolved. Matt, welcome to the Playbook.
Thank you for having me.
Well, you are a true entrepreneur. It appears as if you're an overnight success, but as I do due diligence, you've put your time in and you've learned your lessons. Throughout, the funding process, the building, the evolution of Porch, what was the one lesson that you had no idea about? This is the new year, and I always say we don't know what we don't know. What was the one lesson that you, looking back here now in 2021, going, gosh, I wish somebody would have told me, or I wish I would have known blank? What would that lesson be?
And you're right in your comment of it looks like overnight successes sometimes these things, but in reality, it's a grind. I think there's a couple of things that I would note. I wish I had known. One is just that reminder to that very point that building a company is hard. It really is. Porch is really a story about perseverance, as is so many companies. When you really see what it's taken to be able to build something that's going to be durable. But it's just a good reminder, for myself and for really any entrepreneur, just to know that it's hard, and don't expect anything else. And it is just about grinding and persevering. The other thing that I would wish I had known 8 years ago when we had started this business is, we've made certain shifts along the way, but it really has brought us to a strategy where we provide software to businesses to help them run more effectively, which leads us into really high LTV, really high value services like insurance. And when we started the company 8 years ago, we focused on helping consumers with projects that really weren't that valuable, and just the insight to go after the services, these pools of dollars that are the really high value services, has just really unlocked the business and really catapults into where we are today. And so I would have picked up a couple of years of life and certainly a bunch of gray hair had I known that, or had more clarity of thought, 8 years ago.
Yeah, don't we all, especially in sports, it's that Monday morning quarterback looking back and saying, gosh, why didn't I see Justin Herbert as the best quarterback to draft? But we don't know what we don't know, as you said. What's also interesting is, you were building your own house. Talk about a glutton for punishment. And in the process of trying to source home services, you realized that there was a huge need. And obviously your exposure to different businesses that were providing such, qualified, guaranteed services outside of that industry, you went ahead and made a big jump and said, this is going to be the business that I'm going to go into. Now, I know if you go back to when you were at Stanford, for example, and someone said you'd be in the home services business, you probably would have laughed, scoffed at yourself, let alone said, no, I'm a technology guy. I'll go to Stanford University. What was it? I've always tried to get into the mind or the emotional side of, here you're building this home, and what was it about the need that was so strong, the message so strong to you that you were willing to completely transition what you were doing into something you probably didn't know too much about?
Yeah, look, the amazing thing about this industry that we're focused on, being the home and making the home simple, is that it is such this massive category, but it has pervasive pain. When people move into their homes, it's the third most stressful time in their lives behind death and divorce. And when you're maintaining your home, you're in your home, it's way more difficult than it should be. And so actually from an entrepreneur's perspective, in some ways I could have, I am not surprised, that I'm going after solving this kind of a problem. I've always, dreamed and had the ambitions to go and build a truly legacy company, one of those true household brands that is able to solve a real problem in the world. And so after having built another couple of companies before Porch, I was trying to figure out what was the next and last business going to be, that I would build. And I didn't want to build just a, shiny widget or something like that, or the next app. I wanted to go and solve a real problem for real people. And so building a technology company that is focused on the home and focused on helping people through that whole journey that they have with the largest asset in their lives, for me is exactly what I should be doing. And you're exactly right. It was inspired, as is often true, by my personal pain as we went through this process of building a home, my wife and I, with our young kids. I mean, it was just a nightmare. And, it just became obvious to me that, okay, this is the category where if someone takes a unique approach to it, you can go build, a real category winner, build a massive, massive company. And so that's what this last 7 years has been about, is to be able to go and find our way to get that right strategy that can really scale and grow rapidly, obviously, as we've done so over these last set of years. But now we're set up where we're very unique, and we're everything's in front of us, and we get to go and make a run at building something that we're going to be proud of.
And what percentage, you did a great job of financing the company. I always say the key to a startup for me is to stay in business, and the way that we stay in business, the heartbeat of the business is how well capitalized the business is. You get a lot more leniency on the dummy tax, a lot more room to make mistakes, and a lot more time for experimentation when you have more money. And you did a really nice job of structuring and financing your company. I would say there's like 3 different things, and I'd love to hear the percentage that you felt went into financing your company. 1, relationship capital. What percentage of raising that money was just about going to the right school, knowing the right people, et cetera. 2, your vision today, the quantified value of what you were going to do today. And then what percentage relied on, hey, this is a platform, right? This is a home platform that eventually will evolve into, you didn't know at the time, an SFA, ERP, or CRM of some sorts that has, much more value than it was. But there's always some sort of percentage of those 3 in raising the money. In your case, where do you think those percentages fell?
Yeah, I think the percentages shift and change over time as the company matures. And so I think out of the gate, when we were just standing the company up, I think a very significant portion of it was in that first bucket, relationships, where, I've been fortunate, and entrepreneurs that have, that are on their second or their third runs can probably relate to this. But, I've built and sold a company before this, and then helped take the next company public. And so just coming out of that, I was actually able to personally lead our initial seed round, and I had made a bunch of investors previously, great returns, on their money. And so it was actually pretty easy for us out of the gate to be able to go and capitalize the business, to be able to get the business stood up. Now, when we took it from that level and we started building momentum, being able to go raise the $150 million we had in the private markets, getting the larger checks and other institutional investors and really strategic partners is where we had focused on trying to bring in investment from over time. It was very much about the latter 2. It was about the vision of what we could go build. It was about the platform. It was about, the competitive moats that we'd created that would be hard for us to be disrupted. That really is, I think, that story and that vision of what we were building, really is what inspired people to come and join us, and to want to participate. I think that certainly at this point is true. Now that we're in the public markets, we just completed this process, and it was very successful, successful IPO process. We went public through a SPAC. But we, for example, went out and raised a PIPE, and we were going to raise a $50 million PIPE financing. And we had over $300 million in orders, and we upsized to $150 million. And I think all of that interest and excitement was really around the platform that we had built and are building, and the massive opportunity that's ahead of this company.
Yeah, I think looking at your entire journey, it's one of an evolution, not a revolution. And so many entrepreneurs look at things as some sort of, instant or complete revolution of this great spark of inspiration and imagination, but it's an evolution. Part of that is you've had great experience and success in startups. Part of the show in the playbook for me is getting great advice, from great entrepreneurs. And as a startup, what advice would you give if I was, a young Stanford graduate coming out and I have this great idea? What piece of advice or pieces of advice would you give me?
Probably 3. One, so much of if a company succeeds or fails is about the people and the team. And I think often when you're an earlier entrepreneur and young in your journey, you don't put enough care into really thinking about who's going to complement you well, and who's the right co-founders, who are the right first people to bring on. And it's just, critical, really. Those are the people that end up, really helping you make it work or not. So that certainly is important. Two, I think often people spend time on the wrong things. For example, I remember in our first company, how much time we spent thinking about the company name, right? And debating it. And the reality is it just doesn't matter that much in the early days, right? You have to get the business stood up. And three, it kind of relates, which is so often, entrepreneurs spend all of their time, building out this great product. And it takes too long to get it out to market. And they aren't paying enough attention to distribution, right? And the unit economics of the business. And that really, at the end of the day, is some of the most important parts of the business is how do you bring it to market uniquely and consistently and scalably? And I think putting more focus on that, you hear about how first-time entrepreneurs focus on the product and second-time focus on distribution. And I would say that is true. There's absolutely truth to that I think earlier entrepreneurs can learn from.
Yeah, I think third-time entrepreneurs build communities beyond distribution. I think that's where the primary focus is today. On those who own the community will own the market, the distribution, and you can come up with whatever idea you want and put it through your community. Absolutely. On the positioning now, coming from such an evolutionary perspective, 2021 is going to be, I believe, a grand ride for those who know how to take advantage of opportunity. With great change comes great opportunity, proven in 2020. I think 2021 is really positioned for those who know how to take advantage of that change and opportunity. How have you positioned Porch in this evolutionary process to take advantage of what you perceive going to happen in 2021?
Well, Porch's whole business is around providing ERP and CRM software to companies that help consumers and home buyers with their move, like home inspection companies, like moving companies, and other verticals. And then through those relationships that we have with these companies, with these 11,000 companies we provide software to, those companies pay us with SaaS fees, but they also pay us by giving us access to introductions to their home buyers, where we then generate transactional revenue, helping these consumers as they go through their home. So think about what's just happened in the world and how much wind it provides to Porch, wind at our back it provides to Porch, where, people are moving out of city centers, all across the country. More people are buying homes than ever before. Everybody wants space right now. So they don't go crazy with their kids, in their home all the time. And then, all this money that typically would be spent on travel entertainment is being put into people's homes because we're all in our homes, spending more and more time, into it. And so, while certainly Porch's business was hit hard negatively back in March, April, May, but by the end of June, things had fully recovered. And at this point, we're really excited about how we're positioned, to be able to take advantage of this really large, unique access we have to home buyers at incredible scale, and be able to help more and more and more of these people to make that whole journey easy. So we're set up actually really well, I think, with what's ahead over these next many years.
All right. Most critical question as we come to a close. How far are the Seahawks going to go this year?
I'll tell you what, the defense is playing pretty well. So we got a chance to make it all the way. We were hoping for that 1 seed, but we're going to make do. But I have been a lifelong Seahawks fan, so good for you for your homework. With Russell Wilson and Pete Carroll, you always got a chance. And I'll bring it back to your story. Here's what it's about. It's because they have this deep-seated optimism and this deep-seated belief. I actually respect those two such a high degree, and I think they're great lessons to be learned for entrepreneurs from how they run their organization, where they're able to motivate people to believe every single day, and that puts you in the right mindset to be able to go and accomplish unique things consistently over a long period of time.
Yeah, as a great Seahawk quarterback, Warren Moon, who's my business partner, always told me, he said, the thing you have in common with Pete Carroll is you both understand enjoying the consistent, everyday, persistent pursuit of your potential. And, that's what keeps Pete Carroll just so uncannily motivating and inspirational to his players. And then Russell Wilson works with a college buddy of mine, Trevor Moad, and teaching me the neutrality lesson, which has been my greatest lesson for 2020 is, I always say, raise my higher frequency or elevate myself to neutral, right? Go drop down to neutral or elevate myself to neutral. Nobody in the game next to Warren Moon, in my opinion, understood neutral as well as Russell Wilson. And I think that'll both serve them both very well through the playoffs. And I have them picked to beat Green Bay eventually and go all the way to the Super Bowl. And we'll see, determinative of who makes the Super Bowl, how well they do. But it should be an exciting year. Thank you so much for joining us, teaching us all about what's important to me, which is football, and to everybody else with his entrepreneurism. So it's been an incredible journey. I have Matt Ehrlichman, CEO and co-founder of Porch, a great entrepreneur, not an overnight success, even though he was the entrepreneur of the year for USA Today back in 2014, but a huge empowering person. Come back and join me, Matt. Thank you so much.